So, in my last video, during one of my anecdotes, I brought up that I was a barista at Starbucks when I was younger. And due to that, a memory resurfaced that hasn't entered my mind in years. When I was 19 and I was coming home from a long, exhausting shift, one of those shifts that makes you drive numbly home because you're worn out physically from the work and emotionally from dealing with customers. I found myself at a stoplight amidst the midday traffic. I was driving the little Scion XB I had at the time, which I called the toaster lovingly, and I was just sitting at the red light trying to slowly unwind and relax. The cars in the left turn lane on the other side of the street were taking their turn, and maybe 3 seconds after the last car in line had crossed after they had crossed, a big lifted SUV, which I think was an old Chevy Suburban, just blows through the left turn lane at what must have been like 50 miles per hour, headed right for me. Inside the intersection, the guy driving slammed on his brakes, and it was so abrupt that his tires trailed smoke behind them and left long black marks on the street. When the vehicle stopped, the front bumper was only about 5 feet from mine. Everyone around me was honking at him, but I was too shocked to do anything really. I didn't honk and I didn't yell. I didn't even really get upset. I just kind of sat there. Um, it happened so fast and unexpectedly. I didn't even have a fear response. He reversed and then drove quickly in the direction that the other cars from the left lane had gone. So he followed them. After that, I continued driving home and just kind of like, I don't know, I was like kind of in shock, but it was just so, I was still so like numb, I guess. I didn't really feel the shock until I really sat with it later. Anyways, I realized that I had a vague thought as that vehicle was hurtling towards me, like, oh man, this is it. Like I'm, wow, okay, that's it. That's the end. Um, since the height and weight of the vehicle compared to my vehicle, that if he had slammed on his brakes a second later, I'd probably be dead. Um, when I got home, I kind of sat with it as that was the first time that I'd really like appreciated and really thought I was gonna die. Um, and I was like, man, wow, I'm really distinguishing that fine line between life and death. Um, so, anyways, here's the transition to how this experience changed how I run the event of death in Dungeons and Dragons. I share this with you because it's kind of cathartic, and it's also shaped how I view things, and how I run the event of death in Dungeons and Dragons. I strive to have the deaths in my campaigns, whether that be the death of one of my players' characters or a significant NPC, to possess weight. I do this by making resurrection, whether that be by less costly spells like Revivify, or the godly but pricey True Resurrection, extremely hard to come by. I implement this in the form of a low magic setting, sort of like the setting that The Lord of the Rings takes place in, where magic users are rare and special. And in my campaign settings, powerful spells come with a steep, steep cost. You may find the powerful cleric who can resurrect your friend. You may gather all the diamonds required, but the cleric may be a bitter soul, who doesn't want to expend the Herculean effort of casting true resurrection. Maybe he'll only do it for a friend, or in exchange for a task which may risk another life. Or if he's overpowered by the player characters, which of course would be no easy feat. I make it this way so that my player characters take their actions in the world and story seriously. I want them to feel the stakes of making a risky play, and the risks of going off on their own. meddling with powerful political figures, or taking on the monster at the end of the cave. This style of play introduces stakes, which creates depth, intrigue, and drama. It encourages them to create bonds with NPCs, who they help and who will help them in their times of need. It encourages creating bonds with each other, to jump into the fire together with the hope of carrying each other out the other side. I want them to feel how their actions impact their fate, because each gamble and deadly encounter places their fate to balance on a knife's edge, and if they fall off, they may not be able to come back. Everything my players' characters do in my campaign matters. There are plenty of times where we've goofed off, and we all just can't stop laughing, and that night's session gets derailed. But even that matters, because the other side of the high stakes and grounded realism I enjoy so much in my setting is the fun and lightheartedness that could take place when their grueling journey pays off. It reflects life. Every risk we take has a chance of failure, but if we don't take that risk, then what are we doing but denying ourselves an experience? Even if we fail, the chance taken is what makes life exciting. If we hold on to past mistakes, what are we doing but hurting ourselves needlessly? Sometimes it's not possible to forget, but it is possible to let go. It's easy to think that in the vastness and indifference of the universe, nothing we do matters. But who we are and what we do does matter. The size of our lives isn't indicated by physical space, but what we choose to do while we're here. So, spend time with your friends and family. Have goofy or danger-fraught adventures with your party and create awesome memories. Because at the end of the day, that's the whole point.